For centuries, the suit was designed like a small building. It had a rigid shoulder, a fixed chest, heavy lining, and enough internal construction to tell the body exactly where it was allowed to go. People called that authority. I saw armor. When Sergio Gagliori and I founded our company Milan in 1975, I wanted to discover what would remain if I removed that armor.
I took weight from the jacket. I softened the shoulder. I allowed fabric to follow the body instead of forcing the body into a military outline. The result looked quieter, yet the person inside it appeared more confident. That contradiction guided my work for 50 years. Power did not always increase when I added more. Very often, it appeared when I knew what to take away. Some people interpreted quiet design as a retreat from imagination. I never saw it that way. Reduction demands imagination because every surviving line carries more responsibility. A neutral color must contain depth. A soft jacket must keep its purpose without depending on stiffness. Simplicity is not the absence of decisions. It is the result of making them, testing them, and refusing the ones that do not serve the person. Cinema and Hollywood gave me the largest possible laboratory. An actor could put on a garment for one evening and create an image that traveled farther than any runway. But the clothes succeeded only when they stopped looking like borrowed prestige and began revealing something the public already sensed in the person. 5 icons proved that to me in 5 different ways. Julia Roberts showed me that a woman could take a suit from the men's department and make it entirely her own. Michelle Pfeiffer demonstrated how restraint can become more seductive than decoration. Lady Gaga forced me to test whether spectacle could remain disciplined. Cate Blanchett showed how elegance survives reinvention, awards, and decades of observation. The 5th icon came first in time, but he belongs last in this story. A single film placed him in soft jackets and fluid trousers, opened a drawer of carefully folded shirts, and changed how an entire generation imagined the dressed male body. Before returning to that film, I begin with a young actress who entered the Golden Globes wearing the wrong clothes for the occasion and looked more correct than everyone else. At the 1990 Golden Globes, Julia Roberts was still near the beginning of her ascent. She had been nominated for Steel Magnolias, and the expected formula was familiar. A glamorous young actress, a feminine evening gown, hair and jewelry arranged to announce that Hollywood had accepted her. Julia chose a grey Armani suit from the men's collection. She found it at our Rodeo Drive boutique and had it tailored there. The jacket was oversized. The trousers were generous. She wore a white shirt, a patterned tie, loose curls, and the smile of someone who had no interest in asking whether she had followed the rule correctly. She had done her own hair. A friend had done her makeup. Then she won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress. The look was not created as a campaign. I did not hand her a script for how to perform it. She chose the suit because she believed she looked wonderful in it. That independence is why the image still feels alive. Many people now see an obvious red carpet strategy. Borrow from menswear, create contrast, generate conversation. In 1990, the choice was less predictable. The suit could have made her disappear or look as if she had arrived from the office. Instead, the scale made her youth and ease more visible. The tie did not make her masculine, it made the category itself feel irrelevant. Julia later said it became one of her favorite outfits, and she kept it. Decades afterward, her son could wear the same suit. That continuation pleases me because it reveals the difference between costume and design. A costume is tied to one performance. Good design can leave the photograph, return to a closet, and begin another life. The first rule is this: confidence begins before the fitting. A designer can offer proportion and possibility, but the wearer must make the final claim. Julia demonstrated how to command attention by choosing against expectation.
Yet one unexpected look can become a stunt. The next icon had to prove that quiet dressing could hold the red carpet repeatedly.
Michelle Pfeiffer presented a delicate problem for a designer. Her beauty was already so immediate that clothing could easily become either unnecessary or competitive. Add too much, and the dress starts arguing with the face. Add too little without precision, and simplicity becomes neglect. The solution was control. At the end of the 1980s, Michelle appeared at the Academy Awards in androgynous Armani tailoring. The following year, at the 1990 Oscars, she moved in the opposite direction and wore a sleek midnight navy velvet column. The shape was close, long, and almost severe in its lack of distraction. No print, no decorative narrative, no attempt to prove that an important dress must contain many ideas. Navy served her better than obvious black because it changed with the light. From a distance, the gown read as one calm, dark gesture. Up close, the velvet created depth and movement. The dress did not ask the camera to discover a new detail in every frame. It asked the camera to keep returning to Michelle. That evening became known in the press as the Armani Awards. Jodie Foster, Jessica Lange, Julia Roberts, Jessica Tandy, and Michelle all wore the house. What interested me was not the number of actresses, it was the range. A suit could express intelligence. A narrow gown could express sensuality. A structured jacket could carry age and authority. The common language was not one silhouette, it was reduction. Michelle understood that reduction instinctively. In the navy dress, the eye travelled along one uninterrupted line. Velvet supplied depth without needing ornament. Her posture, face, and movement completed what the fabric deliberately left unfinished. Restraint is often mistaken for caution. It is the opposite.
When a gown has no pattern, no enormous sleeve, and no complicated surface, every decision becomes exposed.
Neckline must be exact. The length must create rhythm. The fabric must respond to light. The woman cannot hide behind it. The second rule is stop before beauty becomes decoration.
The final subtraction is often the one that allows the person to remain memorable. But restraint is only impressive when the occasion allows quiet. The next icon lived in a world where quiet would have been dishonest. She needed fashion to behave like music, theatre, sculpture, and provocation at once. My challenge was not to reduce her volume. It was to give that volume a form. Lady Gaga did not come to fashion asking for a beautiful dress. She came with a complete visual universe. For the 2010 Grammy Awards, one look would never have been enough. We created a sequence. On the red carpet, she wore a pale lavender Armani privé gown with a translucent, sculpted skirt and crystal-covered hoops that seemed to orbit the body. A silver starburst became an object she carried, almost like a fragment from the costume's imagined planet. Beneath the gown was a fitted, hooded layer, and the shoes extended the same impossible geometry. Later looks changed colour and function. For her performance, green crystal surfaces and an exaggerated silhouette turned the body into something between a singer and an electrical event. The clothes were extreme, but they were not random. That distinction matters. Spectacle fails when it becomes an inventory of unusual objects. A large shoulder competes with a large headpiece. A complicated skirt competes with a complicated shoe. The audience remembers that something happened, but cannot reconstruct the image. Gaga knew how to create hierarchy inside excess. The orbiting lines directed the eye toward her. The pale color made the architecture readable. The starburst extended the story without becoming a separate story. Most important, her performance energy was large enough to animate the construction.
I had spent decades removing structure from the suit. With Gaga, I temporarily put structure back into fashion, but for an entirely different purpose.
Traditional structure disciplined the body. Her structure enlarged an idea. It behaved more like a stage than a cage. The third rule is that extravagance needs engineering. The stranger the proposal, the clearer its internal logic must be. Freedom does not mean abandoning control. It means deciding precisely where control is useful. Gaga could transform completely because transformation was part of her public language. The next icon also changed from role to role, but she needed a visual identity that could survive those changes over many years. One dramatic night was not enough. The relationship had to remain convincing as both of us evolved. Cate Blanchett possesses a quality I have always valued. She can be transformed without becoming erased. She may appear severe, romantic, androgynous, luminous, or almost otherworldly. These changes do not feel like attempts to escape herself. They feel like different uses of the same intelligence. That is why our relationship could extend beyond one dress. In 2013, Cate became the face of the Sea fragrance. In 2018, the partnership expanded when she became the first global beauty ambassador for Armani Beauty. A long association requires more than a recognizable face. It requires someone whose values can hold the image after the campaign season has ended. The 2014 Academy Awards offered the clearest example. Cate arrived as the Best Actress favorite for Blue Jasmine in a pale gold Armani Privé gown. The base was tulle. The surface carried crystals, sequins, and delicate embellishment. On paper, there was a great deal happening. In the photograph, the effect was light. That is what I wanted. Embellishment should not always announce labor. It can create atmosphere. The gown seemed to gather illumination around her without producing a hard border between the woman and the room. When she accepted the Academy Award, the dress belonged to the significance of the night, but did not consume it. Public elegance requires proportion beyond the garment. An actress is seen on a carpet, on a stage, in close-up, in motion, and then in images repeated for years. A dress that works only from the front has failed. A look that depends on novelty becomes old the moment the surprise is understood. Cate could carry both tailoring and couture because she never treated clothes as proof of importance. She allowed them to become part of a larger presence, voice, intelligence, humor, posture, and the willingness to age without reducing herself to a former image. The fourth rule is that elegance must survive the event that produced it. The photograph should grow more interesting after the headline has disappeared. Cate showed how a person can outlive a grand moment. Yet the most influential image in my career did not begin at the Oscars or in couture. It began in a film wardrobe, with a man arranging jackets, shirts, and ties on a bed. Everything I believed about movement became visible before he said a word. In 1980, Paul Schrader released American Gigolo. Richard Gere played Julian Kay, a man who treated his appearance as both pleasure and profession. My clothes became central to the character's language. There is a famous sequence in which Julian opens drawers filled with folded shirts and assembles several combinations. He handles the garments with intimacy. The scene does not present dressing as duty. It presents dressing as authorship. That was the revolution. Before this film, the suit often communicated establishment power through stiffness. The shoulder held its position whether the man moved or not. The chest was reinforced. The jacket behaved like a uniform inherited from bankers, officers, and fathers. My jackets used another logic. I removed padding and unnecessary lining. I softened the internal architecture and let fabric drape. The palette moved through stone, tobacco, cream, grey, and muted blue. Trousers had ease. Shirts could remain open. A jacket could suggest luxury without shouting wealth. Richard understood the clothes physically. He did not stand inside them like a mannequin waiting to be approved. He touched them, selected them, crossed rooms in them, and allowed them to respond to his body. The sensuality came from movement, not exposure. The film reached an audience no runway could have reached. Men saw a new possibility, elegance without visible strain. Women saw a different male silhouette, controlled but not armored, sophisticated without the old rigidity. Hollywood saw that wardrobe could define character and sell an entire way of living. The impact also returned to women's wear. Once the suit had been softened, it could cross gender more freely. A woman did not need to imitate a man's authority by borrowing his stiffness. She could take the jacket, preserve its precision, and gain room to move. Years later, Julia Roberts could walk into the Golden Globes in the men's version and complete the circle. This is why Richard belongs at the end rather than the beginning. The other four icons tested the possibilities of the Armani language. American Gigolo revealed its grammar. The fifth rule is the foundation of all the others. Clothing becomes modern when the body no longer has to obey it. 5 icons, 5 demonstrations of freedom. Julia Roberts showed that ownership can turn borrowed menswear into personal style. Michelle Pfeiffer proved that subtraction can intensify beauty. Lady Gaga demonstrated that even fantasy needs a coherent structure. Cate Blanchett showed that presence must last longer than the ceremony. Richard Gere made the original proposition visible. Remove the armor, and power does not disappear. It becomes human. Fashion continually changes the surface. Lapels widen and narrow, shoulders rise and fall. Evening dresses become enormous, then nearly vanish. The industry names each return as if it were new. The body remains. That is why movement mattered so much to me. A garment does not truly exist on a hanger or in a sketch. It becomes complete when someone lives inside it. When a hand enters a pocket. When a jacket opens during a walk. When fabric settles after a person sits down. If my work leaves one idea behind, I hope it is not a logo or a particular shade of grey. I hope it is permission. Permission for a man to look elegant without becoming rigid. Permission for a woman to use tailoring without performing masculinity. Permission for glamour to be quiet, theatrical, intelligent, or severe, as long as it belongs to the person wearing it.
So, look at the clothes in which you feel most powerful. Do they give your body more freedom, or do they ask you to become someone else before they will work?
Which of these 5 icons best defines Armani elegance for you? And whose fashion story should speak next?